Hey everybody, welcome back to Battle Ready Inc. So, if you're not aware, Bandai has announced that a ban list is coming out this Friday. So, like every good YouTuber, we've got to make a prediction video, right? So, but this will be a serious one. I'm just going to give my opinion of what I think might happen. And yeah, we'll just kind of go from there. I'll explain my thought process on a lot of this stuff and then just kind of work through previous ban lists and how they've worked those as well. And we'll see where we end up at the end of this. Don't forget, this month's memory marker is Busomon, so if you're a Ghost Game fan, this is a great one to pick up, help complete your collection, because we did have the Poyomon for Jellymon, as well as Gurimon for Gamamon in the past, so this one will help round out your collection there. This is really, really great. Good detail on the fur and stuff like that. This is handmade out of clay by my wife, Digimon. You can find this on her Etsy page, link in the description below. Also, there you can find all of our previous memory markers that she's made in the past, like that Gurimon and Poyomon. So make sure you check that out if you're looking for a new memory marker. All right, so right here is the announcement that they made. So right there from the official Facebook page that a banned restricted list card announcement is coming into effect. Will be on March 17th and will go into effect on April 1st. So we actually still will have a couple weeks here before that new ban list kicks in. So I think that'll do us for like the Ultimate Cups and like the Beelzemon pre-release, things like that. So we'll have a little bit of time depending on what they want to do. I mean, maybe it won't actually affect the Beelzemon Cup, but it could definitely affect the Ultimate Cup. So how do we want to approach this, right? I don't want to just go like shotgun out ideas or anything. I want to like actually take like a kind of a good approach to this of what I think might be on the chopping block. So Eggman was super awesome and posted all the top decks for all the different nationals for across the globe here. So we got North America, Oceania, and the EU here. Not JP though, because their format is different, of course. And this is specifically posted by the English version of the game, so this will be for the English version specifically. Usually stuff like this, JP tends to follow suit later on. Kind of crazy that honestly the English has been the past one or two. The English was affected first, I think, or maybe it's just the past one. But either way, so let's look at North America. What were some of these top decks? Okay, Black War Greymon X. Obvious stuff here, and then the other ones are extremely limited here. We got a couple Crosshearts, so we got looks like 3 Crosshearts, and then we got Grandis here as well, 3 Grandis, and then 1 Security Control. So those are going to be some ones we should look at. Going over here into the Oceania, we got more Grandis, several Grandis, in fact. More Black War Greymon X, of course. So Grandis and Black War X, like right there at the top. 1 Machine Dramon, that's pretty awesome. We did have one I remember in the North America, but I think there was a misplay involved, and so this deck actually ended up falling off. But that's cool. I don't think, same with the Jessmon here, I don't think it's worth really looking at these decks. Just because one deck made it into the top doesn't mean anything on that list will get hit. There was another Security Control here, so that's 2 Security Control, and a Mervamon as well. But really, I think the big takeaway from this one is Grandis, and of course, Black War X. And then going into our last list, this is the EU. Crossheart making a strong appearance here, so that's definitely one to look at. We got Wargrey X, along with a couple Black War X's here, still probably the most prevalent besides the Crossheart. Wargrey X, while there is only one here that's made the list, it's hugely similar in its engine pieces, at least to that of Black War X, so you can kind of lump those in with Black War X for number wise. But yeah, we got the 1 Blue Flare, which is really cool. Congrats to them. And then more Crosshearts here, and 1 Bloom. I don't think Bloom's worthy to look at either. I don't think Security Control is quite worth a look at either, because we literally only saw a couple of them. I know people are like screaming for Chaos Degradation to get hit, but keep in mind, they've already future-proof cards down the road that say if this card would leave the field, you can prevent it by doing whatever, which That's specifically, I think, to counter cards like Chaos Segregation as well as Lone Key, because those, send to security instead. So they've already future-proofed the game moving forward, so I don't think we'll have to worry about those getting hit, for anyone that was curious about those. But where can we approach first? I think the big ones are going to be looking at Crossheart, the Black War Greymon deck, of course, and then Grandis as well. Now, specifically, Grandis has done so well because Black War X has done so well. Black War X being so predominantly played, Grandis being a hard counter to that deck. So naturally, it would make sense that people would want to bring Grandis to counter it, because it's so heavily played. Grandis, though, in a more open field, doesn't do quite as well, I've noticed. It particularly just is a really good meta call right now, and that's why it does so well. But that doesn't mean it doesn't deserve a hit, in my opinion, at least. So I think I've got a Grandis deck built. Nope, I deleted it. Okay, yeah, just getting ready for future formats there. So what are the big problematic cards? As we've seen for the Ultimate Cup, it looks like their Bandai's first look at how to deal with that deck is limiting the Grand Kawagamon. They've used the excuse in previous formats that a card has been meta relevant longer than they expected, and that's why they hit it. So looking at this promo Grand Kawagamon, this is the Digiburst 2, get security attack +1 for each time you do it. And now with cards like hybrids and things like that, and as well as the X antibody decks, you can have an insane amount of inheritables under this guy and Digiburst away, 6, 8 Digimon to get an insane amount of security attack on this guy. So this could be one they look at, because it has been around for quite a while. I think this is BT4 box topper, if I remember correctly. So it's kind of rare to have a card that sticks around that long that's still like that in the forefront. We did see green OTK way back then as well. It just had to have that follow-up turn, because remember they used to use the Chaosmon to then Digivolve on top of this, and it would, unsuspend, swing again at a Digimon and get piercing, things like that. So we could see a hit here. Now, I hate that excuse that they use, though. A card has been meta relevant for longer than was intended or than expected. Like, that was the big excuse they used with Savior back when they limited it. But you know what? Other cards also. Look at Greymons. The security attack +1 inheritable Greymon. That card's literally been out since the beginning of the game, still used in almost every red deck ever. But they don't hit that one. I mean, I'm not saying that's like a super, infuriating, meta card that everyone hates. It's just by their logic of it's been around longer than expected, it still falls under that same category, and yet they keep giving it alt art after alt art. So we'll see what happens, though. But for Grandis, definitely hitting the Grand Kawagamon will hurt it. I mean, but there's still, look at all these other Grand Kawagamons that the deck can use. You got your Grandis here, and you've got this one here from BT12 that's coming out. This would be a good time for them to, possibly hit the Grand Kawagamon to make people want to shift into the new one here. They've got this one from the starter deck that's pretty solid, security tank +1. And you've got this old BT1 here as well, which is just an alt art of this one right here. So again, piercing on this guy. There are other Grand Kawagamons. You hit the promo one, the deck doesn't just flat out die. There are other Grand Kawagamons in the game. The deck can still thrive. Unlike when they hit, what was the Alphamon one? The Doru Greymon. They hit that, and that absolutely crushed Alphamon. It still did have its fallback level 5, but then the Dex Doru Greymon, was basically useless for a lot of those decks. So that really hurt that deck tremendously. There wasn't a fallback plan. At least this, they can power check the deck a little bit, but the deck doesn't just flat out die, which is, in my opinion, a worthy way to go about it. Especially if you keep this 3 Evo 1 minus 1 Evo cost on it, still just a 2 Evo cost. You can still do all these kind of other shenanigans with a memory fixer. So I think that could be a viable hit, I think. I don't know if Grandis will continue to be this big forefront deck to be a meta, killer It's very meta dependent on if the deck is good or not, so we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But it is on Bandai's radar just because of their Ultimate Cup. Now, moving on, of course, we got to talk about the big beast of Black War Greymon X and what its problematic cards. There's we'll go right to it. Cool Boy is the one that everyone screams for. This is my big one that I would like to see on the list. I know people are like, no, they don't want to see Cool Boy. I know just me saying it will get me several dislikes on this video instantly. That's just how the nature of the beast is as a YouTuber. But I think my only issue with Cool Boy is that it was so that the play cost was so low, right? You're going to play cost for 2, you get to search for a massive chunk of your deck instantly, and then when you evo the same level, you get to suspend it to gain a memory and draw a card. Like, it didn't need both of those effects. In addition, I think a 3-drop and you could suspend it later on, or 3-drop, get the search, suspend it later on to either draw or gain a memory, whatever, when they decided. But they just gave it all of these things all in one package for only a 2-drop. I think that's where the big imbalance came from. I mean, looking at Davis as a comparison, as a similar thing, it's double the play cost, right? And it's just a memory fixer. So if your opponent sets you to 3 or more, it has no value in anything it does. And if you get multiple Davises on board, you don't get multiple uses out of those, right? Whereas Cool Boy, you get multiple Cool Boys in play. That's multiple draws, multiple memory gains, and it just absolutely snowballs out of control. And that's why I'm just not a big fan of it. I think you can't get rid of the X antibody option, okay? That the other caveat to that is if you want to keep Cool Boy, you lose the X antibody option. That's a no-go because literally that just absolutely kills those decks, all the X antibody decks, because they have to have that in the inheritables to trigger abilities and things like that. And you don't want to mess with that. That's like actual mechanics of tons of decks. Whereas Cool Boy, you can get rid of the Cool Boy, and all you do is slow down decks and make them a little bit less efficient. Right now in this game, it's you're either building a deck that uses Cool Boy and X antibodies, or you're struggling. You have an uphill battle against you. Shoutmon Cross 7, Superior Mode, those decks, or just Cross 7 in general, they're in a pretty good position as well, but they can also suffer. As we saw in the finals, a Hades Force, well-timed, can just completely shut down the whole deck and you just lose. So you got to be really careful of stuff like that. So yeah, Cool Boy, I think, is a big prime target. I know a lot of other people are asking about the Greymon X antibody. So Greymon X, of course that's not going to show up. Let's see if I can get this to work for me. There we go. The new Greymon X antibody, right? So 0 Evo cost, and then you reduce the Evo cost by 1 for each color. This is huge. The 3 Evo cost here makes total sense. If this had just been a Greymon, I would have been okay with it, because I 3 Evo cost, and then I get this, and then I get my little bit of protection later on. It'd be a little bit more balanced. The fact that I can go a 1 Evo cost Greymon, the one that you Evo for 2, gain 1 back, I can go into that, and then into this guy for 0, and then 2 Evo into another, like a metal. That's not balanced. It's not balanced at all. And then with the new Metal Greymon coming out, that's a 1 Evo cost on top of this guy. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at going from a rookie all the way up into a a Metal Greymon or a Metal Greymon X for 2 memory. 2 memory, and you get, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4 Evos off of 2 memory. That's not balanced, okay? That is not game balanced at all. So this is a big one on the contender here. So definitely, I think a little bit design flawed. Deltamon is a good comparison, I think, to what this card should have been. Just making Deltamon a Greymon, and then cool, you can hit it off of searches, things like that. That would have been a-okay. If you're not familiar with Deltamon, he was a promo that basically did the same thing of reduce the Evo cost by 1 for each color. And he was a 3 Evo cost here as well. And I forget what his inheritable it is. He had an inheritable as well that did something. It wasn't like super crazy, but it wasn't once per turn either, so it was kind of nice. I think it was a DP minus, or it could have been a delete. like a 3K or less. But yeah, Deltamon or Greymon here, X Antibody, is a big one that people are asking for a hit or limit to one. And the thing is, you still have the other Greymon X Antibody. So even if you do hit the new one, you can still use this old one. You still keep a protection effect, so you don't lose out on that, which is pretty important. As well as you still keep that 0 Evo cost on top of another Greymon, which you can combo with your broken freaking cool boys if that doesn't get hit. So you can still have other things available, as well as just that 0 Evo cost, get that draw. And this is definitely way more less powerful than the new one is. So if you limit this one, you still have other things, and I'm a big advocate of that. If you haven't noticed, if they're going to hit something, there has to be something else that can still take its place, albeit a weaker version, like the Grand Kawagamon. There's other Grand Kawagamons. Greymon X Antibody, we still have the other Greymon X Antibody, so there's still other things that we can look at. And I think those are two big contenders there. And then War Greymon X was also on that list, but like I said, we're not going to look at War Greymon X specifically. It's like what makes it good, and it's a lot of that same stuff. A lot of these X Antibody decks, people were also asking for like Garurumon, even though Garurumon didn't show up at all. You could still hit stuff like Cool Boy and kind of, power check it a little bit while still keeping the core deck of, Garurumon alive. Just slow it down a tiny bit, because that deck is stupid fast. And just, clearing out some Cool Boys just makes it instantly more balanced, and then brings it down a notch in line with a lot of other decks. I'd rather have a format with 20 A-tier decks and no S-tier decks than a format with like 3 S-tier decks. That's just, I'd rather have more of an A-tier and nothing be stupid good and stupid crazy awesome. Like, yeah, I love how strong my deck is. No. I love how balanced this game is. That's what I want to say. That's my big go-to there. And then for Crossheart is a difficult one, I would say, just because it's getting more support in BT12 here. In the deck, all the decks changed drastically with this new format, with all the new tamers and things like that. So you'll still see maybe the old Crossheart with the new superior mode. Cross 7's worked into it. Cross 7 being a pretty strong card itself, just getting that delete, things like that. It's a instant like balancer, I guess is a way to put it. But when you have to deal with like Digivolve, it instantly shuts that whole strategy down tremendously. So it does have its checks and balances. I think Crossheart is a difficult one. Like, what do you hit in Crossheart to make it balanced? If you hit the Shoutmon, that gives rush, then you're going to cripple the deck basically into, unplayability. If you hit any of the other pieces, you need multiple pieces to get those, the Digicross mechanic, right? And so it's like, well, you could just keep cycling the same one underneath your tamer. Sure, I guess that is true, but the second one gets put in trash, it becomes more difficult. At least with the new tamers, you can cycle back from the trash with their abilities, or with the new Digimon. The new Digimon get deleted, they save themselves, and then one material from the trash gets saved under a tamer. So there is some balance there, so there may be something worth looking at there. You could hit the Shoutmon that gives rush and then force the players to adapt, and then have to build decks that will cycle back from trash more reliably, things like that. There's room for that as well. But I think Shoutmon's a difficult one to hit without making the deck completely unplayable. Hitting the cross 4 is huge, very needed. They hit it a little soon, but it is what it is. But where else do you hit Crossheart? I mean, if we look here in the Oceania, we didn't really see Crossheart. But if you look here, we saw it a little bit, and then it was really, really big in the EU. So does it necessarily deserve a hit? I'm not really sure. I don't know. What do you do with Crossheart? I think that's the big one. I don't even know if we'll see anything or not. I think for Ultimate Cup, their only way to get around it was to make the format monocolor, because you can't play Crossheart with a monocolor deck. You just can't do it, unless of course you're playing Blue Flare, but that's completely irrelevant for what we're seeing topping. It wasn't Blue Flare, it was Crossheart specifically. So making Ultimate Cup monocolor turned off that, but you notice they didn't pick anything in particular for Crossheart, and I think that's a pretty big tell of we don't even have an idea of what to hit for Crossheart, so we'll make it monocolor. So I don't know if they'll actually hit Crossheart in any shape or form right now. I think that the big ones are going to be Grandis and Black War Greymon. I think those are the ones that they really need to focus on. Those are the ones, of course, doing the most damage right now. Black War Greymon, of course. But if you remove Black War Greymon, then it forces people to play other decks. And at that point, if people are playing other decks, is Grandis as viable anymore? And there's always that big debate as well. At the end of the day, though, they've got to hit something. They've already announced that something is coming. So if I was to put money on anything, my money would be on Cool Boy. Okay, I think that's going to be the big one for me. If I'm wrong, I'll gladly eat my words on Friday and make a follow-up video, and we'll see what happens.